Democratic Party, Senator Frank Ergen Jr. and Mr. Lindsay Alco. Next, former Governor Carl Gutierrez and Fred Budalio. And former Senator Lou Leon Guerrero and Josh Tenorio. And Senator Dennis Rodriguez and Dave Cruz, but Dave Cruz candidate. And for our Republican Party, Lieutenant Governor Ray Tenorio and former Senator Vicente Anthony Adams. Thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be part of this student-based forum. Candidates will be called in the order of which they are seated and questions will be pulled at random. Each candidate team has 3 minutes to answer collectively. If each member would like to speak, you both will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer. This process will help the program move along smoothly and in timely fashion. Due to the time, we will try our best to make sure each candidate gets to answer the same amount of questions. We look forward to the response to the questions prepared for our 2018 gubernatorial candidates. For you guys, as Governor of Guam, what would you prioritize as your #1 issue to immediately address? What do you think would be your biggest obstacle in achieving this priority?
I didn't get your first name.
Derek, oh my God.
Thank you very much, Derek. Good afternoon and happy day. Viva Geckos! Thank you very much, Derek. In this particular case, the first priority as Governor of Guam, when Alicia and I in the Agad Tiaco administration will be tasked with, is understanding the fiscal situation of the government of Guam. We need to make sure that we go in there and we know exactly where the finances are so that we can allocate them accordingly during the course of the balance of the fiscal year in January 2019. In terms of the obstacle, the challenges may be, in this particular case, making sure that within a short period of time we'll be able to access all the information that we need to make those midterm decisions for the balance of the fiscal year. We are talking about 8 months. 3 months would have elapsed in terms of October, November, December, the fiscal year, and we will be tasked with that responsibility. Secondly, one issue that continues to affect every single citizen in this island community is public safety. This war on drugs. And I need to recognize the Medalla Task Force that has been doing a respectable job. But one of the issues that I want to ensure that we also address at the forefront is pulling all of our law enforcement community together and making sure that this war on drugs, this war on ICE is addressed immediately because it affects every single citizen, every single resident here in our island community. Thank you very much. It was awesome.
Thank you for your answer. My name is Rochelle, and this question goes to the candidate team of Gutierrez and Guerrero. Many students are worried about the ongoing discussion regarding redistricting school attendance areas. Can you suggest some options to avoid having redistrict every couple of years?
Thank you very much for that. I'm not really sure what the districting plan is, but certainly here in Guam, it started out first with even districting of, for example, senators running for office. Guam is like Dededo, for example, you have 40,000 people, right? Are you going to cut down streets to say that this street from Isangsung West or Isangsung East are going to go to different schools? And so I want to make sure that when they do a plan, that we have grown up in a community where we really belong to a certain village. And if there needs to be a high school or two in Dededo, then we should put it there. So I think that the students and the parents should be really involved if they start to come up with a districting plan. And get involved, because we don't know how those people in the Department of Education feel about and what their concept is about districting. If it's just strictly to save money and forget about the cultural ties and family ties of people in the villages, then it's not right. I think there's something more than just to accommodate the buses, accommodate the money that's spent, and whether you're going to build new buildings. Now, we can't even build Simon Sanchez after 6 years. For what reason? And then now when you start districting, and you say you're going to put one school here, you're going to have to build. You're going to have to build to accommodate the new district or the redistricted part of the community. But first and foremost, take into consideration what the community wants in the districting plan. Don't just create it by yourself in the office and say this is how we're going to save money and not getting back to the cultural ties of our people. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer, Mr. Gutierrez. Hi, my name is Shante Leon Guerrero, and my next question is for the candidate team of Leon Guerrero Tenorio. And your question is, what life experiences do you have that best justifies you to be the next governor of Guam?
Thank you for that question. I grew up in Sinohanya in a 2-bedroom tin house. My parents, very, very loving parents. My dad worked 2 jobs just to give us a Catholic education, as that's what he wanted us to have. And so when I was also going to college, I worked really hard and struggled through college to provide the financial needs. I worked hard and developed myself as a woman, as a nurse, as a lawmaker, and as a business person. I have experienced the compassion of our people. I have held people's hands who are dying and struggling for their last breath. I feel their struggles. I felt their compassion. As a senator, I passed legislation that affected and made a difference in the quality of life. My biggest legislation was the law that prohibited smoking in restaurants and bars. That made a difference in the health and the lifestyle of the people. As a businesswoman, I grew Bank of Guam from a $900 million asset to a $2 billion company under my leadership. And as a result of that, we were able to provide more businesses. We were able to provide homes for people. We were able to have people bring their dying relatives back to Guam because we gave them loans for medical assistance. So the financial means and the access was able through the growth of Bank of Guam. My experiences as a nurse, as a senator, and as a businesswoman are experiences, life experiences that I think will meet the challenges of our people here. The fiscal house of our government is in bad shape. I will use my financial experience to turn that around. We are more in debt than we are in revenues. We don't collect our taxes, yet we raise the taxes. My experience as a businesswoman in the financial industry will turn our fiscal policy. Why? Because we need finances for education, healthcare, public safety, and infrastructure. So I ask you to vote for the Leon Guerrero Tenorio ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your answers. My name is Renzo, and this question goes for Dennis Rodriguez. What are 3 things you would implement immediately as Governor of Guam to improve our public education system?
Good afternoon to Geckos. How are you doing today? I apologize, my running mate, Dave Cruz, he's not here today because he's working like many of your parents. He's a teacher over at John F. Kennedy High School, but he's here in spirit. And so, you know, our education system has evolved. From the time I was in school, which is not too long ago, I'm 40 years old, like I mentioned to some of you earlier, it really has evolved. Education now is not just the four walls that we live in. You know, back then, you have 30 or more desks facing the front, facing one teacher, you have one chalkboard. Nowadays, technology has improved. We have technology now that really takes our education opportunities to a next level. And so what I would do for education is look at how it's going to adapt to our students, how it's going to adapt to our learning. The way we've been doing education may not be how. You know, it is time now to educate our kids, because with all the technology that's happening. And so that's one of the things that we're going to be able to do with Colonel Dave Cruz, who's a teacher. He knows what the children, what the students, how they want to learn, and how it is for them to adapt to learning. We need to be able to adapt to how you learn and not how it's been for many, many years. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer, Mr. Rodriguez. My name is Faith Tovis, and this next question is pertaining to Norio Avenue. Raising taxes or cutting certain government services. Which would you view as the priority when it comes to dealing with lower revenues in our government?
Real quick, I'm a graduate of 1983 GW, so you don't mind if I take a photo of my fellow geckos? All right, thanks. The needs of our community are always going to come first. Making sure that you get enough teachers, making sure you have enough librarians, you get the technology, you get the education system. We're rebuilding Simon Sanchez. These are all priorities. It comes down to money. You don't get anything done without money. In our community, in your households, no one wants to raise taxes. No one ever wants to raise taxes. I'm conservative. I believe in spending as little as possible. But at the end of the day, we got to make sure that we make ends meet. We've done very good. This economy is growing. The island has grown. We've improved the economy by about almost $1 billion in the last 10 years. We've grown this economy from $400 million operating budget of the government of Guam to almost 900. We're going to have $1 billion pretty soon. The military buildup is on its way. The fact is that we can control in the government of Guam, the number of tourists that are coming here is increasing. We've had record years for 3 last years. We've had the gross domestic product grow, and household income has grown as well. Now, things that are out of our control, North Korea threatening Guam, which reduced our number of Japanese tourists. That reduced the number of jobs, the number of people that are working, reduced our revenues to the government of Guam. It reduced the tourists coming here, so it reduces our economy. Other factors beyond our control. The federal government, Washington, D.C., the Congress hit us with a tax cut. Now, that meant more money in your pocket, but less money in the government. We need to make sure your teachers and every other government employee, those police officers, and the corrections officers, the nurses, and every person gets paid, and we continue to drive operations. You don't want your teachers to not be able to get paid and not be able to operate the school. So ladies and gentlemen, we temporarily asked for the legislature to address the shortfall. And they did, but it took them 3.5 months. So that 3.5 months that we didn't have the increase in taxes. So it really comes down to what are the needs of the community drives the needs in taxes. The legislature dictates how much taxes we assess, and we assess those taxes. We don't want to see taxes any more than anybody else. We want to see your cost of living go down. We want to continue to make sure you have jobs. We want to build the economy. These are things that you need to know about, you need to care about. Pretty soon you're going to be making a decision on who's going to be the next governor. You have to think about those who have the experience in the private and the public sector. Tony and I have that experience. We know what it takes to be able to get things done. We don't want to raise taxes, but we also have to make sure things get done. Teachers, education, public safety, public health, everything is a function of money. And ladies and gentlemen, we've handled our government very well. We've handled our finances very well. The bonds that we have are the bonds that the legislature has told this government to go get. The debt that we have, the taxes are all a function of the policy the legislature adopts and gives to us to execute. We've executed and will continue to do a good job for the people of Guam. Maraming salamat po. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer. And my name is Daviana Risasa. This question is for Again Lentiaco. Our island is becoming a very expensive place to live. What are some steps you would implement as Governor of Guam to address or alleviate the high cost of living on our island?
Viviana, thank you very much. That's an excellent question. And you know, the underlying aspect of the question is, what will you as governor of Guam do to ensure that the cost of living does not increase any more than where it's at today? Let me share something with you. Just this past few days, the gas increased by 20 cents per gallon. That reaches into the pocketbooks of every single parent that drives out there in our roads. That reaches into the pocketbooks of things that your parents could otherwise use and apply toward buying textbooks or buying school materials. So in this particular case, as a pledge and as a commitment, the Ogun Limtiaco administration will not borrow for operational costs. Secondly, we have an obligation. Back in February, there was an announcement during the course of the budget discussions that there was about $180 million in outstanding tax receivables. If your parents pay their taxes, I pay my taxes every year, Alicia pays her taxes every year. In this particular case, we need to honor those who pay their taxes. So one of the other aspects that I will commit to in the Ogun Limtiaco administration is that we will go out and collect those taxes so that we don't have to increase any of our taxes or any of our cost of living in the government. Thirdly, one of the things that we have to do is we need to look at reforming government. And it means prioritizing the areas that you expect your government to prioritize. Of course, education has to be prioritized. This recent budget reduction, out of the entire consideration, Mr. Fernandez, the superintendent, committed to reducing the DOE budget by $12 million for the balance of the fiscal year. That is a lot of money coming out of your education. And in this particular case, we will go out and collect the money. We will also prioritize and focus on the priorities of this government, which should be education, public safety, and healthcare. Those are the areas that we want to continue to focus on, in addition to providing revenue tax with the people resources internally within the government of Guam so that they can aggressively go out there and collect the money on behalf of the people. And then we will deal with other fiscal challenges as they come along. So in that particular case, our commitment is not to borrow for operations. Our commitment is to not look at increasing taxes, but doing what the government should be doing. Collecting it and making sure that we're prudent with how we spend our money and that we prioritize our government functions in education, public safety, and healthcare. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you for your answer. This question is for Gutierrez and Battalion. What do you feel is the main reason Guam is currently in a fiscal crisis? If you are selected governor of Guam, what would be some steps you would take to get the island out of this crisis?
Thank you for that. And ladies and gentlemen, young people, let me reintroduce myself. I am Carl P.C. Gutierrez, first elected to the legislature in 1972. I was speaker for 2 terms. I was Ways and Means chairman for 3 terms. I was governor of Guam for 2 consecutive terms, 8 years. I was the president of the Guam Constitutional Convention we had in 1977. The situation is this. The experience that I have, I've been through almost every part of the government. My first job in the government of Guam was to create the Data Processing Center, the computerization of the government of Guam back in 1965. And that's what you have right now, computerized Guam. They didn't have it then. So I know the inside working of the government of Guam. Somebody said here that, they've increased the revenues of the government of Guam from 400 million to 900 million. When I was governor, it was 300-some million. But I had a full complement of customs officers, a full complement of police officers, a full complement of fire department people, full complement of teachers. We didn't lay anybody off. It's how you prioritize those funds that come in. People throw out education, public safety, and health. Well, let me tell you where I take these 3. First, health. Because if you're sick, you don't want to go anywhere, right? Just lie down in bed and stay sick. And if you don't feel safe about going out to go to school, then that's number 2. And then number 3 is education, because if you feel well, you have a healthy environment, you feel well, you feel safe, then you want to go to school. If you don't take the priority that way, like Guam Memorial Hospital, for example, they lose $35 million a year because the law that created Guam Memorial Hospital from the federal government, Organic Act, says that you cannot turn anybody away. If you were sick, you go in there, they'll take care of you. That's $35 million for free services. Well, I say it's now called an autonomous agency. Remember that. In other words, they have their own board that the governor appoints, and they deal with the running of that hospital. Every year they're losing. So as governor, the first thing I'm going to do is take that prioritization of healthcare and get rid of that board and put it where the buck stops at the governor of Guam. And I'm going to take the first instance to the Guam legislature to say, fully fund this as a regular line agency. Don't wait to say, I'm going to raise the taxes of poker machines and give it to you, tobacco and give it to you. They have no constant money coming in. You got to do it by a budgetary process by the Guam legislature. Give it the money there, and then public safety, put it to optimum use. That's why you got a lot of drugs and everything coming in, because there are 114 people short at the customs. You see what's happening? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. This question goes to Leandra and Sharp. What do you feel are the most important provisions in our current environmental protection law and regulations? What ideas would you implement as Governor of Guam to improve upon those laws and regulations?
Thank you for the question, and Hafide Gekos. Obviously, EPA is there to protect our air, our land, and our water. Those are the big things that we need to be prepared, that we need to protect. But because we have a lot of development coming, with the military buildup coming, really we need to be able to protect our resources. When the military says they're going to build something, our government agencies are supposed to be there to make sure that they're building the projects the way that they say they are, and that we're going to do everything we can to protect our natural resources and our cultural resources. I also think that our government needs to be very forward-thinking on global warming, and whether or not you think global warming is just a natural course of the temperature rising, or if you're like me, you think that process has been sped up because of pollution. We live in a small island. Our region is going to be very, very affected. It already is affected greatly. So we need to do our part from the leadership with our Governor Leon Guerrero and with me, going out and trying to make sure that we educate the public and do things we can in our daily life to reduce waste and make sure that our environment is clean. Lastly, I just want to say that we want to go ahead and educate many young people in the schools to protect our environment. It's going to be it begins in the home, and I hope I can count on all of you young people to help us with that fight. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your question or your answer, Mr. Tenorio. My next question is for Mr. Dennis Rodriguez. If you could repeal any current Guam tax, what would it be and why?
Sage responsive for that question. I would repeal what was just passed recently, which is the increase in the GRT from 4 to 5%. I would also increase, and I will support the initiatives now before us that will repeal the sales tax. I voted against these two because I know we're not doing enough. I've said from the beginning, if we are going to tax our people more, let us collect what is due to the government first. Also, we need to ensure industries that have not been paying their fair share, these industries pay their fair share. Because there's industries like the banking, insurance industries that have been giving tax holidays for many, many years. And it's time for them to pay up and pay their fair share. We can't ask your parents to say pay more taxes so that the cost of milk, the cost of bread, everything will go up. I saw news yesterday that one of the telephone companies, GTA, is going to increase their costs because of the 1% tax increase. That's what I've been saying, is that we don't increase taxes, we go out and collect what is due. So those are the two that I will repeal. Thank you.
Thank you you for your answer. This goes to Tenorio and Ada. The island has recently seen an increase in the number of homeless people. What are some things you would do as Governor of Guam to address this issue?
Thank you very much. Great question. We've already done a lot. We've taken more people, be able to put them in temporary shelter. We've improved the number of people who are actually employed in this community. We have lower unemployment. We have more people that are graduating from high school, as well as a decrease in the number of dropouts from high school. That's a very good indicator of the future. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the ability for an individual to provide for himself is a function of his skills, his intelligence, his education. And I've been talking to many of you during lunch, basically explained there's many different opportunities. One of them is tuition-free college, because I think it's important for us to be able to invest in you on the front end. Any number of individuals that you find in our community that are out there that don't have a home, that don't have a job, that are finding themselves in really bad times, and even those many, in my case, 53 years old now, in public safety my entire career, I see many people that are in the criminal justice system, they also did not get a proper education. We need to make sure the education, because that's what's driving a number of the homeless problem, the crime problem, as well as the drugs problem. We can always lead someone to be able to give them a home, but they have to be able to sustain it. We just can't give them a home and say that this is going to be a permanent solution. The permanent solution is building the individual. The lowest common denominator, the most common ingredient to any successful civilization is the individual and the knowledge that the individual has. We're really big on making sure that we get a temporary shelter. I think housing right now is at the tail end of an RFP process to be able to find temporary shelter. But we need to give them education. We need to give them labor training, give them the career skills, to get them a job placement. The Department of Labor and other agencies like Governor Guam is doing an exceptional job of doing that. So the homeless problem is not going to go away until we make sure that every single individual has the skills. Let me reflect real quick. About 30-something years ago, I graduated here 35 years ago. About 30 years ago, I was a police officer, a young man. I could count on one hand the number of people that were homeless. It was a very, very low number. The number of people that have come up, it was over 1,000 at one point. Now we're about 700. But the facts still bear out to this. We need to improve the individual's skills, improve the work ethic, improve their promise of a future. And so when they know they have a future, they have the skills, they have the job, they have the income, the odds are they're not going to find themselves homeless or in crime or doing drugs. Let's improve the common man. Let's make sure that each one of you have the opportunity for a successful life and be able to realize your dreams. Thank you very much. This is Marcy.
Thank you for your answer. This question is for Team Ugin Limtiaka. Current issues have indicated that the government of Guam is lacking when it comes to transparency laws. Do you agree with this, and how will you address it as Governor of Guam?
Off a day geckos. Off a day. I am also a 1981 proud graduate of George Washington High School, and so I'm very, very humbled to be here with all of you today. And so the question, which speaks about transparency, I think all of you, as well as your family members, your parents, your grandparents, our community as a whole, is very concerned about what government, what public servants do on a daily basis, how we are using and putting the hard work, the taxes that are collected, the revenues that are collected, the government appropriations, how are we really using them to benefit all of you and your families? And so the Ugin Limtiako administration would be in full support of transparency laws that allow for, that expose, that reveal, that show and hold us accountable as an administration, because we are public servants. And when any of us as candidates take on the responsibility of serving all of you and your families, then it is our responsibility and obligation to make sure that we are truly using our government resources to benefit all of you and your families and our community as a whole. Transparency
is about accountability. Transparency is about making sure that the government, that the people who call ourselves public servants are being forthright, that we are credible, that we have integrity, that we are honest. And so any provision, bill, legislation, program that supports full accountability and transparency, the Agalim Tiaco team will be in full support. Thank you. Si Diyos Masi, maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much for your answer. And this question is for Gutierrez Ordalio. What is your position on current gun laws on Guam? Do you feel that we need to strengthen our gun laws?
Thank you for that question. And Hafade Geckos. My name is Fred Berdalio, and I retired from the Guam Police Department. And as a police officer, from the ground up patrolling, I risked my life going to domestic disputes, going to different crime incidents, robbery in progress, and we're always fearful that a person would have a gun, and would I survive? And I survived 29 years in the Guam Police Department. In terms of firearm laws, you could see nationwide that when there's mass school shootings, that there's the fear of, do you arm teachers? I'll tell you this, Guam has the most restrictive firearm laws, and there's no need to provide additional laws that will restrict firearms ownership. Governor Gutierrez and I support the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. And when we look at, it's interesting because when I've gone to schools and do some career talks, the first thing kids want to do, some of the children want to do, and the students want to come up when I was wearing my police uniform and see my firearm. And we have to change this mentality now that it's the pen that's more powerful than the weapon, than the gun. We have to emphasize to our island, to have faith and confidence with their police force to protect them, the police and law enforcement. And when you start to see gun violence, I've been to the States and I've actually, applied for a Project Safe Neighborhoods grant for over $90,000 to automate firearms database so we can track the registration of firearms. When I was talking to colleagues over there in Denver in that conference on Project Safe Neighborhoods to reduce gun violence, they told me, were there that many violent deaths on firearms in Guam? And really, it's pretty much been sometimes exaggerated. There is not that many firearms deaths. If you go to a cemetery and you look at the tombstones, you find more people died from natural deaths. So the thing about this is just ramping down, and just making sure that we don't have a community that fears, that is fearful about gun violence and start arming themselves, and start increasing the amount of gun owners. Since firearms laws have been passed recently, there have been more individuals registering for firearms. There's been an increase in firearms. And there's a better way to resolve conflicts in a community. Governor Gutierrez and I want to recapture the soul of this community. How we handle, we want to bring that in a Famalik spirit back to our island. To resolve things and resolve conflicts without resorting to gun violence. And we certainly don't want to impose any restrictions, firearms restrictions, because we then respect also those individuals who have a firearm for hunting or have a firearm for their own protection. We certainly don't want to increase those restrictions. And that's, again, of our value to the Constitution of the United States, the Second Amendment. And that's also our value to trusting the community that they could be responsible. We hope that those firearms owners, we want to send this out, are very responsible with their firearms. You have to double lock them. You got to make sure it's restricted. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. Okay. This one is for the young girl and the scenario. Upon completing your term or terms as governor of Guam, what would you want your constituents to say was your legacy?
Should I be fortunate to be your governor for 16 years, I want to leave the government position with this legacy, that I see Guam as a safe, compassionate, prosperous, and fair community. I also want to see a Guam where we have been given the right to self-determination so that we can vote for political status that gives us strong identity, that gives us a strong voice, that we can go anywhere in the world to negotiate and control our fate and our destiny. And when I say a government and a Guam that is safe, I want every one of us to feel safe in their homes. I want every one of us to feel safe in your schools. I want every one of us to feel safe when they're driving home. Right now, if you ask people out there, and we have asked them in our listening tours, do you feel safe? They say no. Women complain that when they're walking from the mall to their cars, they have to always be looking over their shoulders. And then when they open their doors to get in, they're looking to see if someone else is in there, a stranger. That's not the Guam that I want. That's not the Guam that I grew up on. So how do we feel safe when we don't have police officers out there in the community? How do we feel safe when we only have less than 300 police officers when we're supposed to have 400 plus more police officers? I was just talking to some police officers at Michelle's before we came here, and they said to us, they work hard, they work double time, and they don't feel they're being supported by this administration. Why? They themselves see that there's not enough police officers out there. When I say compassionate, I want Guam to understand the struggles of our people, so that when we understand the struggles, we can then address the challenges. When I say prosperous, I want us to have an economy where we all feel that we truly are prosperous. We want to create jobs. We want to make sure that we don't have debt in our future. We want to make sure we have revenue so that we can, yes, provide the health, the safety, and the education that we also truly deserve. So that's the legacy I want to leave behind. Safe, prosperous, fair, and compassionate. And it is not an impossible thing to do. So please vote Leon Guerrero Tenorio so you can all feel safe in your schools. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. This question is for Mr. Dennis. What is your position on charter schools? Would you support additional funding for the implementation of charter schools?
Sidus Masi for that question. I do support the concept of charter schools. I do believe that the charter schools give the opportunity for the community, whether it be a group of teachers, a group of retired teachers, or those in the community that want to improve education. We have very successful charter schools now that are on our island. Of course, there's some that are not doing too well, but I do believe it's an opportunity for us to be able to concentrate on specific fields. And so charter school is a concept that I support. I've introduced legislation for us to fully explore it further. I know that some of the issues that have come up is that teachers, there's no unions. There's no unions in charter schools. However, I believe there are still ways that could protect and ensure that teachers are protected if you are in a charter school. But I do believe that is something that is worth exploring further. Sidus Masi.
Answer, Mr. Rodriguez. My next question is for the candidate team of Tenorio Ada. Your question is, were you in favor of the legalization of medicinal marijuana on Guam? And as Governor of Guam, would you pursue the immediate implementation of this law?
Hey, good afternoon, geckos. Come on, Hafade, good afternoon, geckos. How you doing? Awesome. You know, I do support the use of medicinal marijuana because it's very important to know, ladies and gentlemen, that there are illnesses out there that sometimes opiates and other medications do not help. And sometimes there are medications out there that counters an illness that an individual has. A medicinal marijuana can help that individual overcome whatever illness that they're, or at least cope with whatever illness that they have. You know, when that issue came before the legislature, it was a very touchy one. Nobody wanted to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And that's the truth. Because it was the taboo thing. It was the thing that, you know, you don't want to talk about the marijuana or how it would help people or not help. But law was passed by the vote of the people to say, we want medicinal marijuana to be used. Now it's just getting the rules and regulations in place, making what needs to be done happen. If there's no one that wants to build a medical laboratory so that we can implement the law, then let's look at somehow that we can introduce legislation that says, you know, what we can do is allow for the use of medicinal marijuana, and then when a laboratory is built, we can sunset that law. But we need to look at what we can do to help our people. Because there are many people out there that can utilize medicinal marijuana for their illnesses, for their conditions. But we just need to ensure that all the rules and regulations, all the implementations that needed to be put into place are in place. And if not, let's find a way to make it happen. Because, ladies and gentlemen, that was a vote of the people, and the vote of the people needs to be heard and needs to be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. This question goes for Agin Lanciaco. Many of us here will be graduating from GW and moving on into the working world. As Governor of Guam, what ideas do you have to create more jobs on our island?
Is it Derek? Renzo, thank you very much, Renzo, for that wonderful question. To all of you that are going to be graduating, I want to start off by congratulating you on this particular accomplishment. But guess what? It's only part way of where you need to go. Eventually, it comes back down to Renzo's question. What are we as Governor of Guam and as Lieutenant Governor of Guam, the Uncle Tiaco administration is going to do to be able to create jobs for all of you to transition? You have one of three options. You can continue education at Guam Community College or UOG. You can go into the workforce, or you can, other options in terms of the workforce, obviously, is the military. One of the big responsibilities of a governor of Guam and an administration in this case is making sure that we can facilitate business activity out there. And what does that mean? That we can invite foreign corporations or outside businesses to be able to invest in our economy so that they can provide jobs for our people. That's what it really comes down to. How can we pursue these jobs? We will look at tourism and continue some of the good work that the Guam Visitors Bureau has been doing and attract as many visitors from different destinations. Keep in mind that our primary destinations are Japan and Korea. We can also concentrate on China. We can concentrate on Russia. We can look at Taiwan. We can look at the Philippines in terms of encouraging more visitors to come to Guam. That's one. We can look at expanding the economy, whether it's the cruise ship industry between Guam, CNMI, possibly Palau, and the Federated States of Micronesia, so that in fact we can have a cruise ship industry on island. We can also look at expanding existing industries that need a little bit of a hand up, and that is aquaculture. Having come as a farmer, aquaculture and agriculture, those are two areas that we can look and pursue. It's all about facilitating business activities. How are we going to attract outside money to come to Guam? If it's a new industry, then we can look at the qualifying certificate program at the Guam Economic Development Authority and provide some financial incentives for outside businesses to come in. If it's an existing industry, then as a government, we need to ensure that when they go and apply for a permit or a construction or whatever the situation may be, that their government is friendly and that their government is responsive in processing whatever documents they have. We have to be a business-friendly community, and we need to continue to promote economic growth, economic development, so that ultimately it translates into providing jobs for students that graduate every single year, and also it would result in increased revenues coming to your government so that we can put it into the priorities of education, public safety, and healthcare. Thank you, Renzo. Good question.
Thank you for your answer, Mr. Alvin. This question is for Team Gutierrez Verdalio. How would you describe the status of our island's war on drugs? What would your priorities be in addressing and combating the issue of drug use on our island?
Mr. Verdalio will take that for my question. Anyway, I chuckled when Tony Ana mentioned that it was for medical marijuana. Everybody, oh, that's medical, you don't look sick. But I'm for medical marijuana also. And how to get it in is that Hawaii took 17 years to get their medical marijuana in because they had to set up the laboratories. Well, the same company, I've already contacted them, that became governor, and lieutenant governor will get that same company to come here and set up the laboratory. Then you got it right there, and then we walk in to say, are we going to make it recreational or cultivate it? That's another step, but we'll take the first step first. So medical marijuana, let's get it off the ground by hiring the same company that's put up Hawaii after 17 years. Now, Fred, here you go.
You know, the AG, the Attorney General came out and she agrees there was a high-intensity drug trafficking area. There was a federal team that was on island looking at the drug problem. You know, the Mandania Task Force, their operation is just old ideas disguised as new. During the Gutierrez Verdalio administration, it was a Violent Street Crimes Task Force. I was a member of that. We went raiding houses. We went and did a street-level drug interdiction, took the drugs off the street. But you're missing two other prong approaches, strategic approaches. That's drug treatment and drug education. That's not where it really is being effectively conducted right now in terms of reducing demands of drugs, is that you go to have organized conferences. First Lady Jerry Gutierrez was very effective at that. You can count that when Governor Gutierrez and I are in office, our First Lady, Governor Gutierrez, is going to work together with nonprofit organizations, businesses, to put together education, anti-drug education. You can count that Governor Gutierrez and I are going to look at improving the capacity of drug treatments for people, because it's sad that people that can afford it can go off island for drug treatment and or drug abuse, and it's not really done on our island. We can certainly do a better job, and that you can count on when you vote Gutierrez Verdalio. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer, and this question is for Leon Guerrero Tenorio. Out of the three things we rely on to address crime on our island, incarceration, prevention, and rehabilitation, which do you feel is the most important, and which do you feel we need to improve on?
Thank you for the question. If you have to, out of the three, probably the most important long-lasting would be on the prevention side. And you would want to work with young people to educate them about the effects, the negative effects drugs have on their life, in their physical health, in their mental health, and in their relationships with people. So I would say that that would be a real pressing issue, but all three are very important. So I feel that one thing you have to look at is you have to look at the supply and you have to look at the demand. On the supply side, we have to be able to staff customs and let them have full access into the airports and the ports so that they can close those opportunities that currently exist for drugs to come into the island. But the greater work and the most long-lasting work is going to be on the demand. And that means that we have to go and really have an aggressive program dealing in drug treatment and in recovery. There are a lot of people that are sick, and you have to deal with that, including those that are going to be incarcerated for periods of time. What's happening right now in the court system is people are coming in and out of the prison because they're not getting effective drug treatment in prison. So when I was the administrator of the court under my leadership, we improved and expanded the juvenile drug court, the adult drug court. We established a veterans treatment program so that we can go in and deal with the underlying causes of the criminal behavior. And many times the underlying cause of the criminal behavior is an addiction to drugs. There are quite a large number of people that are educated and can offer drug treatment services. They're only doing it part-time. We need to do that full-time. We shouldn't be pushing back $1 million in federal funds that go to for drug treatment or suicide prevention when you know that those are real issues affecting the lives of a lot of people of Guam, especially a lot of young people. So to summarize, prevention efforts for sure, but all three are very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your answer. Okay, it's for you, Dennis. Do you think the island should increase our minimum wage?
Thank you, Zirko, for that. Zirkai, thank you very much for that question. You know, when we talk about raising the minimum wage, of course, who doesn't want to raise their minimum wage and earn more money? However, for me, we have to be very responsible when we do that, because a lot of our people, a lot of you know, perhaps your parents, your family members, they're on public assistance programs, whether it be on Medicaid, MIP, or food stamp. And what happens there, to be able to be qualified for those programs, you have to be within a certain range in your income. And so what a 50 cents, even a 25 cents increase in your income would do was knock you out of that program. So what is that going to do? If you raise, let's say, if you raise minimum wage by 25 cents, right? You take home 25 cents more every hour. However, now you're going to lose your access to health insurance through Medicaid or MIP. It doesn't make sense. And so what I would support more is that you increase the benefits of our employees. Employers must provide health insurance to all their employees. One of the bills that I introduced, which is now public law, it expands the health insurance access for our people. It proposes to be able to have a combination of funding sources. The individual must pay for it, the employer, and the government. And so that's how you approach getting people a living wage and making them be able to live life and be able to support their family. So we can't just say raise minimum wage because it sounds good. It sounds very good. There are consequences when we do that. And so we must do it responsibly. And what we need to do is ensure that the benefits portion is what your parents are going to be able to get instead of raising the minimum wage right away. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This question goes to Sonora Anna. Do you feel that the island has sufficient laws that prevent discrimination and mistreatment of those in the LGBTQ community?
Thank you for the question. The LGBTQ community is just like everybody else, ladies and gentlemen. We deserve respect. Everybody deserves respect. It doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is, and the federal laws and the local laws emanate that same level of value. We respect all individuals. I'm a member of the Knights of the Columbus in the Santa Teresita Church right here in Manila. I believe in pro-life, but I also believe in the individual's decision to be able to live a life that they choose. I understand that every individual has responsibilities and duties under the Constitution and vice versa. My son, not my son, but my sister's son, his name is Trey, he's been gay since he was a little boy. He's still gay. He's living in the States. I have a cousin of mine, she's a Tenorio, living in Tennessee, drives buses for the school district there, married a woman, she's a lesbian, has been all her life. Does that mean that they're less entitled to any other rights and the privileges that every other constitution and every other law allows every individual? Frankly, no. We need to respect every individual, regardless of their sexual orientation, regardless of their beliefs, religious or otherwise. I believe in protecting the unborn. I believe in making sure that we protect life, because I think life is precious, but I also believe that every individual, every person on this planet deserves respect and dignity, and we give it to them every single day. Jesus Masi. Maraming salamat po. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. At this time, each candidate will have 5 minutes to give their closing remarks. First up is Ms. Yako and
First of all, thank you. Thank you very much, si Jesus Masi, and maraming salamat po to all of you students here at George Washington High School, to your teachers, to your faculty, to your administrators, for allowing all of us as candidates to come out here and to speak with you, to talk with you about the issues that you believe are so important. I mentioned earlier that I am a 1981 proud Gecko Wario graduate. I was also the salutatorian of my 1981 class. When I was here at George Washington High School in the late 1970s, early 1980s, we had a time that was filled with a lot of questions, a lot of insecurities. I was here at a time when we had organized sit-outs and organized protests right out here. And why did we have that? Because the student body spoke up. Because the student body wanted to make sure that our teachers were being treated fairly and paid fairly. We spoke up because we also were concerned that celebrating our Chamorro heritage and culture was at risk at that time, when we weren't allowed to even celebrate Chamorro Week or Chamorro Day back during those times. We were very concerned about the quality of our education because issues had been raised about certain classes. We were also here at a time when we had questions about discrimination, about how there were tensions and fights among our village hangouts, about how persons with disabilities, about those that were members of the LGBTQI community were being treated. So if we fast forward to where we're at now, some of these issues still exist. And so what do we need to do? How can we make that difference? We need to make sure that we're listening to you. We need to make sure that we have a people-centered government, and that means that we bring all of you and your families and our stakeholders to the table so that we can have a discussion about not only what the problems are, but how do we resolve them. And so the questions here today were very important. They gave us, right, a preview, an understanding of what you care about. Education, public safety, health, our environment, discrimination, making sure that everyone is treated fairly, that we are safe in our homes and in our neighborhoods. And so at this time, I'd also like to introduce who I have chosen as our next governor of Guam, Senator Frank Agun Jr.
Afade, and good afternoon. If there's any ties between myself and George Washington High School, is that my wife is a graduate of George Washington High School. Also, my oldest daughter is a graduate of George Washington High School. I want to start off by thanking you and Ndakulu Nasizus Masi to all the geckos here today. I believe our government will be better because I have a gecko on my side. We, the Aganim Tiako team, pledge to serve you and your families first and foremost by fighting for your rights and well-being, fighting for a higher quality of life for you and your families. Our team is committed to building a people-centered government. We will deliver effective, efficient government services that truly serve you and our community, empowering and involving you in the decision-making process. We will develop meaningful and real job and career opportunities and make our economy stronger through creative programs that are solid and long-lasting. We will make it a priority so that you and your families can afford quality health care. We believe that prevention, like medical checkups, is the most important part of healthcare and should also include services for substance abuse and behavioral and mental health. We pledge to continue to work hard so that you and your families can receive high-quality education and affordable homes. We also pledge to continue to work hard so that you and your families feel protected and safe in our homes and in our villages. We will protect and safeguard Guam's environment and our collective cultural heritage and continue to address historical traumas. We will continue to seek self-determination and the actualization of our political rights. And it's events like this that are a very good start. Debates and forums with the people who want to lead, and the best way to decide on who to vote for is to be informed. This is an exciting time for you. You're getting ready to take on the new world of adulthood that's before you. But it's also a critical time, a time for you to start engaging with your government and your leaders. This is a time where you get to decide for yourselves what kind of community you want to live in and what kind of quality of life you want for you and your families.
Thank you for that, sir.
So thank you for having us all here today, and we are looking forward as we lead up to the elections to continue sharing the Aganim Tiako vision with each and every one of you. Thank you, and Dr. Nasizus Masi. Great job, everybody.
I'll take the other half.
This is for you, Terrence, and for Dalia.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Stephen Alvarez, for organizing this with your students, fellow students. Ladies and gentlemen, I attended George Washington High School, but I wasn't a gecko. I was a warrior. You don't remember that? You transitioned from the warriors to the geckos. That's how old I am. I was born before World War II, and as I traversed this island over the 76 years that I've been alive, I've never seen Guam this way. I think that we have lost our soul. Right now we're pitting one group of people against the other. We're trying to deport as many people that are supposed to be unwelcome here. I was, by legislation in Palau, given the honorary citizen of Palau, honorary citizen of Yap, Ulithi, and part of Chuk and Krosrai. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are just one community here in Guam, and we cannot fight with one another. When the compacts of free association was coming in, I was the senator, Ricky Bordalio was the governor. The State Department asked us, Ricky Bordalio, are you going to let these people come in for education and medical? Yes, so of course, and Senator Gutierrez agrees too, that we are just brothers and sisters in the Pacific. The ocean is not a barrier. The ocean is a bridge for us to go to see each other, and we are one family. So I'm saying to you right now that Guam is such a dire situation that you need some experienced person that can jump in there and try to take care and mitigate the problems. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, I've traversed every part of our government, from the legislative, judiciary, over, because I was the chairman of the grand jury, so I know that process, and executive branch. We need to be able to say to you that, look at who's going to go to be a governor and take the ball and run with it on day one. Somebody that's really experienced. I've traversed this island left and right. I know all the pitfalls, the traps, and most important, I know where the resources are. You gotta, and I earned my Eagle badge. I've earned it. You can't send Cub Scouts to do the job. So ladies and gentlemen, on day one, I'm going to make sure that first we have to make sure that our finances are taken back. Bring back the soul of Guam. And how do you do that? To have a real magalahi. If you don't understand what a magalahi is, some of you from the other islands, it's a man that takes care of the people, that stands in the village square, stands up there in front of you. You can talk to him, not somebody in Adelut that you can't see. If you got a problem, you come up to me as the magalahi and say, Governor, I've got a problem. Whether I can do it, but they see somebody that can feel and know that somebody matters. You know, so ladies and gentlemen, if you take away the interaction of the number one and number two people in the government, and won't see the people, won't get in the middle of the problem, they go like this, it can't be. They're not a true magalahi. You're not a true chief in the villages. You have to be able to bring that spirit of Guam back so that we can be a great community again. No more fighting. Let's get our finances back. I have the experience, the knowledge, the great networking I can do in Washington, D.C. to bring a President Trump out here again like I did bringing Clinton out here, so he can see firsthand. For those of you that suffered through Typhoon Papa, if it wasn't for my relationship with Bill Clinton, your lives would have been stretched out, and not helped immediately. But he sent everything out here for us because of my relationship. You need someone to go to Trump and say, Trump, let's go. Come and see Guam. Come over here. We are giving more to the safety of the United States of America with more bases here. In the north, 20,000 acres. Go there, they don't pay taxes. In the south, they've got all of the place up there for the ships. They took Sumai and the port. So I'm saying Clinton came and he saw it. That's why he gave us money. Trump needs to come and see it. But you have to have the personality and not be chicken and scared to talk to them. I go in there and talk to them. They'll look at this old man and say, Lana, we're the same. We're the same, man. And I want Guam to not only be a part of the national security strategy for the United States, but get us into the economic strategy. Use Guam as America in Asia. We've got more fiber optics going in and out of Guam than any place else in the world per capita. And I did that when I was governor for 8 years. So we're poised to be able to take advantage of that. And GTA is doing that right now by doing a consortium of $250 million of more fiber optics. And I know why they're doing that. It's for the military. But we can avail ourselves with that, give our people real high technology jobs. Get somebody in there that knows the whole thing without having to read anything. You know, you have campaigns right now, you have a committee. They go down there and they say, this is what you say because I think the people will like it. It's got to come from the heart and the mind. If the two don't jive, then you really are not a leader. You can pretend to be a leader. Stand up there and say, I'm the real Nagalai, got problems, come see me. I may not make it right for you, but I will look you in the eye. Like those homeless people, you can send people out and say, what's your name? How many names you already know? The Magalahi and the Segundo is going to go out there and say, what's your problem there? And they look you in the eye, suddenly they'll think they have somebody that matters. They'll have hope. Lift them up. Not lift them up physically, but lift their spirits that somebody is really caring about them, that they matter. Just because you're poor, that they don't matter? No, that's arbitrary, because I've been there. I've been there, I grew up poor, so I feel what they feel. Not just knowing how they feel, I feel what they feel. Get somebody that's going to be a true MAGA ally. Look for Grandpa to take care of you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Next up is the younger Guerrero Tenorio.
Thank you so much, Steve, for allowing us to come here. And also to the Geckos, thank you for your time and appreciation in listening to us. Josh and I want to thank the sophomore, junior, and senior students from the History of Guam classes for sponsoring this forum today. Sidus Maasi. It is often said that those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it. Clearly, you have learned your Guam history. Your questions were excellent. They demonstrate an understanding, appreciation, and concern for the future of Guam. Your Guam, our Guam.
Our island faces many challenges. For more than a year now, we've been holding listening tours, visiting with families from all over our great island, from Pneumatic to Gigo. We've listened as people of all ages, ethnicities, and income levels shared with us their concerns about the government's fiscal crisis, the economy, public safety, healthcare, and of course, education. Today's forum was not much different from some of the listening tours that we've had. The questions asked here today are very familiar to all of us. They reflect the shared concerns of adults and young people, students, and those that know that our government is failing and that we can do better.
I have been a nurse, a senator, and most recently the president and CEO of the Bank of Guam. My experience tells me that the first order of business in a Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration will be to roll out our plans to get the government's fiscal house in order. For example, your government currently has more than $200 million in taxes that it has failed to collect. Over the past 10 years, our government has doubled the debt to more than $2 billion. Clearly, this is not sustainable. The government of Guam credit card is nearly maxed out. It is also unfair, especially to you here today. Every man, woman, and child on this island, that's you, your parents, your siblings, your aunties, uncles, and cousins, owes more than $15,000 a year as your share of the government's debt. That's the burden that has been placed on your future because I believe this government has been mismanaged.
For the past year, we've been working on solutions to our island's problems, and we will be ready to implement them on our first day. On day one, we will also be ready to create opportunities to help you succeed. Whether you're graduating next month, next year, or 2 years from now, we will create opportunities for those of you who want to further your education, serve your country in the military, or who want to immediately enter the workforce. Whatever life path that you want to pursue, we believe that it is the responsibility of us who have gone before you to make that path as smooth as possible.
Josh and I know that we can change how this island works. This is something that must be done to give you opportunities. We need to finally build a new Simon Sanchez school and to work on improving facilities at GW. We need to make sure teachers are adequately paid and that our schools are properly equipped and maintained. Government needs to do better for our people and be better for the community. It should not be burdening us. Government should be serving us. Josh and I believe that the island needs new leadership to restore prosperity, compassion, confidence in our safety, and fairness to Guam. I am ready to be your MAGA Haga. It's time for a woman to get our house in order. If you are longing for change, so am I. If you have the courage to make change happen, I will lead you. And if you are looking for a leader that's on your side, I'm in. Thank you, si Diyos Masi, and maraming salamat po.
Thank you for that. Next up is Rodriguez and Cruz.
Again, thank you so much. Si Diyos Masi, maraming salamat po to George Washington High School for hosting us this afternoon. On behalf of Colonel Cruz, my family, our campaign team, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I want to pay tribute to all the other candidates that are up here, from Senator Uggan, Governor Gutierrez, Senator Leon Guerrero, Lieutenant Governor Ray Tenorio, and their partners. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the youngest candidate up here. I'm 40 years old. I'm the youngest. And so just like you, when I was your age, I looked up to leaders. Leaders like Governor Carl Gutierrez. He was my idol, and he knows that, and I told him that. I looked up to him, and he looked at us young kids, and he said, you know what? You're the leaders of tomorrow. Do you remember hearing that from people, hearing that from leaders? That you're the leaders of tomorrow. For me, you're the leaders of today. If us, the real leaders now, are listening to your concerns, listening to what you want and what is it that you need to have a better Guam, a better school, you're the leaders. And so we have that opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to elect someone young, someone like you who knows the struggle, the real struggles that you face. My parents came to Guam nearly 40 years ago. They migrated to Guam from the Philippines. I was born and raised on Guam. I married the most beautiful Chamarita. She was here earlier, but I think she left, Lina Calvo Rodriguez. But I know what it's like to be able to feel what a lot of you feel, because your parents came here for a better life. The problems that we see here today, especially this war on drugs, ladies and gentlemen, we're not winning the war. When we're busting the people for drugs, the drug users, putting them in jail and then sending them back out, and then they repeat that cycle. You heard that. They repeat the cycle, that cycle. We're not getting to the root of the problem. What we need is rehabilitation and prevention. I've made a commitment that if I'm elected, God willing, to be governor of Guam, you know that, if you guys know where Government House is in Agani Heights? Have you guys been there to Government House? That's where the governor resides. I'm not going to reside there. I'm going to stay in my home in Dededo. We're going to turn Government House, the real house of the people, so that we can help rehabilitate people, use that facility to rehabilitate our people, because it's such a beautiful place. And that's where we need to be able to have a facility to treat our people and make sure that we get to the root. We can't just incarcerate people, put them to jail, and think that it's going to stop. Those are the things that we need to do as a community. And I'm asking you, make this time your time as young citizens. A lot of you I talked to earlier who are 18 years old, 19 years old, are not registered to vote. Your voice is your vote. Your vote is your voice. You need to, number one, register to vote, and on election day, come out and vote. Because we can't just sit back anymore. That's how I felt. That's why I ran 8 years ago for senator. I said, I can't sit back anymore. I got to step up. As a young individual, I got to step up and say, if I want Guam to be a better Guam, I have to step up and do what it is that I did. And so we have that opportunity now, ladies and gentlemen, to please express your voices and ensure that we want a Guam that is for everyone. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, to have a new era of leadership. We heard the other candidates, their experiences. I haven't been in government for very long. I'm going to serve my 8 years as a senator. That's the experience I have in government. But I walked just like you. I was a young kid, born and raised on Guam, whose parents were struggling. I worked. I had my daughter. My wife and I had our daughter when we were 17 years old. So we were, we were the statistics of teenage pregnancy, but we had to work hard, build up. And now we have a beautiful daughter who's here with me today. She's 22 years old. She's going to be graduating from the University of Guam in the fall. So ladies and gentlemen, I know what it is. So I'm asking you, please register to vote. Ask your parents, your godparents, your grandparents to register to vote. And please vote for a new era of leadership and vote for Colonel David Cruz and myself, Dennis Rodriguez, to be your next governor and lieutenant governor. Situus Maasi, thank you very much. And I know I have I have a minute left. So I had a shirt. I was supposed to wear a shirt that says, I love GWHS. I wore a shirt similar when we were at Tees in high school, but I didn't get a chance to change before I came here. And so it's just one shirt, so I want to give it away. But I don't know how to give it away. So I want to ask, is anyone celebrating their birthday today? Is anyone celebrating their birthday? It's back there. We're doing an honest system here. Anyone celebrating their birthday today? Or who celebrated yesterday? Someone celebrating, yesterday. Please come forward. Please come forward if you had your birthday yesterday. All right. Congratulations, you're the winner of the shirt. Your name? Sarah. I made this shirt. It says, I love GW High School. That's what my campaign is about. It's about love. It's about spreading love because I love Guam. That's why I'm standing before you today to say I want to serve Guam and make Guam better. And so I want to give this to you, and hopefully you'll like it. So just want to say thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you for that. Up next is Tenorio Adam.
I don't have a t-shirt. I'm sorry. You got it, brother. I want to thank my partner, Tony. Sorry Dave couldn't be, Rick Dennis. We all know each other on a first name basis. Primo, Josh, Lou, thank you so much for a great speech here tonight. Governor, Fred, my friend, I was his field training officer, can you believe it, when he was a police officer. But Governor Gutierrez, thanks. Alicia, and of course to Frank, I know he had to go somewhere. Ladies and gentlemen, Carl Gutierrez is right. Everybody has something they want to say. They have these things that are scripted. Somebody comes up with a speech. I get on the computer, I draft, do as best I can. But you can never do better than what Carl Gutierrez just said. Speak from your heart. The real Magalahi, we're all very capable of being a real Magalahi. Every one of us. We love the island, just like Dennis. I grew up in a house that Lou just described. 2x4s and tin. And I was living on the swamp in Agana, and had to jack it up because the land was always sinking. I was a foster kid. It wasn't easy, but I'm sure a lot of you have similar stories. We're all just people, just like Dennis, we love Guam. My campaign slogan is, we are Guam. Doesn't matter whether you come from Truk or Pohnpei or Philippines, Japan, or comes from Canada, Barragata, or any other village. Doesn't matter where you come from. It's where you make your life. I was talking to some students during lunch today. They had hot dogs and chicken tenders and potatoes and salad. We just need the same things. We need a good life. Yes. Do we have a drug problem? Absolutely. You tell me a community in the world that doesn't have one, other than ISIS, where they kill everybody. We don't do that. We do rehabilitation, of course. Do we need more? Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, I grew up in this school. This is my school. I love GW. You only graduated from high school once. This is my school. I love this school. Does that make me more qualified? No. But I'll tell you, what does make qualifications? Your passion. You want to make a difference. Doesn't matter where you're born or who your parents are. It's where you make your life. I dedicated my whole life to the people of Guam, and I'll do it all over again. I'm 53. I'm not 40. I don't know how old Carl Gutierrez is. But you know what? I'm not laughing at him. I told him he's always been the most qualified guy to ever run for governor. I respect him. But the point is, does the age matter? Maybe. Does the color of your skin or where you came from? I don't know. But what can you do for the people of Guam? Tony and I have got great experience in the private and the public sector. We've done a lot of good things. Of course, people are going to run against us because we're the incumbents. I'm the lieutenant governor. I'm responsible. But I don't get the credit for the good things we did. We only get credit for bad things we did. The reality is, we've done a lot of great things. You care that we've improved the economy, the tourists that are coming in here, the number of jobs, we've decreased unemployment. You have more people graduating from high school. Do you care about that? I hope you do. Are they talking about that? Of course not. They're going to talk about how bad we are. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's no bad people up here. We all love you. You want to make your life great. Yes, I want to invest in tuition-free education at UOG and GCC, Guam Trades Academy, because I want you to have a future. I can give you a t-shirt. I can give you free housing. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give you the mind and the talent, skills to be able to live your own life, to accomplish your dreams, to do the things that are important to you, not important to me. It's important to be you, give you the skills, give you the education, give you the jobs. You want to raise minimum wage? Raise your minimum education. You want to raise your quality of life? Raise your talents. You want to be a teacher? These teachers, something didn't fall out of the sky to make them teachers. You know, Mr. Alvarez, is it? And Mr. Buan? Ms. Buan? Thank you so much. They didn't become teachers. Somebody just gave them a book. They read it. They did the work. You've got to do the work. Governor Calvin and I were proud of the work we've done. We've done the work that we're asked to do. Do we need more customs officers? Absolutely. Firemen? Of course. Is there ever a time that we don't? No. 30 years ago, same thing. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not the challenges that define you. It's how you deal with them. We've dealt with the challenges. We've had promotions. We've had increases in compensation. We've improved our education system. We have a great working relationship with the board, John Fernandez. We stood behind you. We're going to build Simon Sanchez. We're going to renovate GW. We're going to continue to do the other things because you deserve it. Ladies and gentlemen, this administration in Tenorio, Ada, just like anybody who's going to come up here and tell you we want to do good things, we've already done those things. You want to talk about being the real Magalahi? I've already been there. So has Carver Terrace. And you know what? We're going to continue to do good things because you deserve it. We love you. We are all Guam. You are all Guam. Let's make it better. Maraming salamat po. Jesus Masi. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We would like to thank each candidate for taking the time out of their busy schedule to be here today for our forum. Let's show our Gecko spirit and give all of the gubernatorial candidates a round of applause. It was a pleasure to hear what the candidates have to offer to Guam if elected as 2018 governor and lieutenant governor of Guam. We also want to recognize the students from Ms. Bowan and Mr. Albert's History of Guam classes who worked hard to coordinate this forum. Let's give all of us, our students, a round of applause.
That concludes our coverage here at GWHS High School in the cafeteria. Again, the forum here at GW. That concludes our coverage. Thank you again. This is going to be posted. Thank you. Adios.